And greetings, happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast. I am Steve Deace. He is Todd Erzin. He is Aaron McIntyre. We'll be joined soon by our official Blaze TV colleague, Jill Savage, here in just a moment. Her show starting up here later this summer. I think she said it's July, Jill, correct? Is your new show here on the Blaze? And remind everybody what it's going to be called.
Blaze News Tonight. We made it really difficult for everybody to remember. It's going to be Blaze News at night here on the network. So we're really excited for it.
All right. BNT, Blaze News Tonight, coming up here starting later this summer on Blaze TV with the one and only Jill Savage. We are brought to you by the one and only First Cup Coffee Company, with a flavor for every freedom-loving American. Take 10% off when you go to firstcup.com. Use the promo code DACE. Again, firstcup.com. Use the promo code DACE to get 10% off. And if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% off for the life of your subscription with this fantastic coffee made by people who share your values at firstcup.com. Promo code DACE. And of course, if you're having a great weekend here, or you're envisioning one, and you're thinking, you know what, like Todd Erzin, I believe it is very possible to have too much fun. Well, we've got quite the chaser for you. If you go to blazeoriginals.com/Deace, that's blazeoriginals.com/Deace. If you're not yet a subscriber to Blaze TV, use the discount code VOTERFRAUD, and you'll get $30 off an annual subscription and get to watch the brand new special. It's fantastic, but it will make you want to hurt people. Voter fraud exposed: how elections can be stolen, by another one of our great colleagues and friends, Sarah Gonzalez. You'll find out why I think Michigan is... Steve, why do you keep saying Michigan's unwinnable? I watched this. Voter fraud exposed: how elections can be stolen. BlazeOriginals.com/Deace is where you can go. Use the code VOTERFRAUD to get $30 off your annual subscription when you do at BlazeTVOriginals.com/Deace. That's where you want to go. Next hour, it'll be time for Feedback Friday. But now this hour, you know what time it is. It's time for the Deace Group. If you're new here, you should know we did not create any of this. None of this is our own idea. The music, the imaging, everything, the format, everything is completely stolen, copied, ripped off from the McLaughlin Group. But since that was on PBS, and we own it, and John McLaughlin is dead now, it's totally okay. So let's get to issue one. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says...
And I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem.
Is it true that is all your natural hair?
Yes, I can confirm that this is not a wig.
Follow-up question: do you use your own?
Joe isn't one of the most effective presidents of our lives, in spite of his age, but because of it.
I was a Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure going to introduce you all the way.
These videos, I mean, they're blatant lies. And it used to be, Jen, back in the day, it would be kind of the dark corners of the internet that would put out these fake videos.
Hi, friends. Today we're going to talk about something super important: what it means to be transgender. It's a big word, but I promise that it's easy to understand.
What's that? What's puzzle? Is he or they with us?
I, along with a group of friends, we would go out on the street. This lady came to us and she had these tumors. I mean, she wanted us to feel them. And I just remember I put my hand on her and my hand just began to move. And the lumps that were there were no longer there, and she was so happy, and she went on about her day.
I just want y'all to know that everybody does not have Juneteenth off. I'm stuck in this office, in the white man's office, working for the white man, real modern day slavery. Stop inviting me places because I can't go, y'all. I have to work, and I just want to know, Are we getting paid double today? Not everybody, just the black people. We better be getting paid double today, and I'm not playing.
I think globally it would be many more millions. In the United States, it could probably be another million. Because it was very, very clear when you looked at the curves of hospitalizations and deaths in people who were vaccinated versus people who were unvaccinated. The unvaccinated people, the death and the hospitalization went this way, and vaccinated, it was low like this.
Nice to see you again, Doctor.
Good to be with you, Steve.
Always a pleasure to have you on. I gotta say, you are a spry 83 years old. Have you thought about running for president?
He is running for president. Is it safe? Is it safe?
No. It's never safe.
Jill, ladies first, and you're the guest. First question. Whatever you want to say, Jill. I don't have a question.
All the things there, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go with the presidency, because I think that overall will encompass my answer. Fauci there at the end being asked if he wants to run for president. The thought of that alone, the amount of power that he wielded already. Why does he need to be president? He seemed to have enough power in his own position that he was in for the entire length.
And he's
of
totally
COVID
unaccountable.
And
Yeah, at the same time. That's a step down. Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't even matter. Yeah, he would have more scrutiny if he was the president. We don't want to put him through that, you guys. Why would we ever do such a thing to Dr. Anthony Fauci? But the other parts of that video that I wanted to go back to was Jill Biden saying, President Joe Biden is not only old and decrepit and all that. No, forget about that part. Oh, he's effective because he is so old. Are you kidding me? But they are getting better at their spin in the White House, because Karine Jean-Pierre was the first person that we saw in the video this week. And I will give them props for their cheap fakes. That's a good one, you guys. Like they took something that they couldn't really explain away, just saying, oh no, you aren't seeing what you think you're seeing with your own eyes. We're gonna instead pivot and just make up a new term and just go with it. And the vast right-wing conspiracy, like that worked for Hillary Clinton. So maybe cheap fakes will work for us, as Joe Biden is now in Camp David for the remainder of the week until he's locked down there. Until the debates, they are not letting him go out and play in the wild. They're making sure that he is going to be ready for debate prep. That's the worst.
Well,
this is our country.
The reason why they've got to get him there already, the amount of Adderall and upper concoction they've had to ingest him with already. If you do that intravenously, obviously the body metabolizes it faster. I mean, you risk having him peak too soon and then also crash, and you go through withdrawal and everything else. And so this way, the drugs that will be necessary for next Thursday night, these can be done orally and in a pill form. And that way his body metabolizes a little bit slower. You're concerned that you've had to inject him with so many of these drugs that, what it takes to wake him up will cause him to be so zombified that it has kind of the opposite effect on a live stage. So if you begin to kind of slowly gear him up narcotically with a full week to go, the hope is that this, metabolizes to his body as a baseline of output. And and that way he'll blink at least 3 times in the hour and a half that they are debating next week on CNN, and all will appear and seem normal. That's the hope. Anyway, that's the hope.
Yeah, it's about 12:10 Eastern time now as we're taping this. It's getting close to amphetamine o'clock over at Camp David. Walter White is there now, cooking up a batch of the blue good stuff. So, yeah.
Jimmy Carter is still alive, right? What about Billy?
Yes.
What about Billy? I mean, Billy could be a help right now. Billy Carter could be a help. Dan Aykroyd's still alive. So we know Dan Aykroyd could be a help. Get him on the line. Some orange roughies. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you want a powerful drug? Let me tell you about a powerful drug. Because no matter how much respect you have for the White House apothecary, Steve Deace,
and I have, and my respect is pretty high, to be honest. Yes.
The real drug is the one that the Democrats believe the American public is on, because instead of in the weight of the evidence that they feel at the very least they need to hide Fauci and tell him, no, this is a loss leader, thank you for your service, they're trotting him out now. And that's because they know whatever you think of the power of the drug that Biden is on, the one that the American public is on, as it relates to the experience that they went through versus COVID, is 10 times more powerful. The American public, vis-a-vis COVID, are largely crackheads. They believe whatever Fauci said still to this day. They're using him for the campaign. It's not just selling a book. No. They know that people think that he was a savior. They'd happily, it's clear. I wasn't so certain of it. It's happy. They want him out there as much as possible because they know that you like that crack. Face it.
Can I go one day without hating you? Is it possible, do you think?
We got to worry. We can make fun of everybody's idols all we want, but ours are so big and shiny. Oh, my goodness. We love them.
Man, can I invoke
Aaron,
this
how
real
much
quick?
do you hate Todd? Go.
I don't, because he's hitting on all the right cylinders. Our colleague Oron McIntyre the other day, yesterday actually, tweeted this out. Todd retweeted it as well. I think it bears mentioning here. He tweeted, "Tell us what to do." People are telling him, talking about, tell us what to do. You give him one example. Okay, here's a large body of political theory I've collected and distilled to make it easier for the average person to understand our situation. No, tell us what to do. Okay, here's the multi-generational program of community building, alternative institutions, and local involvement I think is necessary to raise up a new leadership class and create regional autonomy. No, tell people what to do. Here's an in real-life organization that's building social networks while actively involving itself in local and regional politics. No, tell us what to do. Okay, vote Republican. I'm sure everything will be fine. That's the ticket. That's our side's idol, too. Parting on the left is the parting on the right. Back to the montage, though. Cori Bush, Congresswoman Cori Bush. I'm not charismatic in my theology or practice whatsoever. I think miraculous things still do occur that are unexplainable by any known scientific phenomenon. So I'm not necessarily poo-pooing that, not affirming that. But I'm quite certain, along the lines of what you said in passing the other day, that somebody who endorses baby murder is probably not got the power of the Holy Spirit of laying on hands and healing people.
Might be more like the power Balaam had, brother, if you know what I'm saying.
Our friend Tim Young, the comedian, he was telling me yesterday, Cori Bush's security guy thinks that he's like 1.5 trillion years old and can conjure tornadoes. So.
What's wrong with that?
You're fake, Jill. We're just going to call you fake now. No. I don't know where to go some days.
Neither do I. So I'm going to go to the exit question. Let's go there. All right. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds, Tim Scott got his beard pregnant, and 10 being the odds, Lindsey Graham has never done anything that would risk getting a girl pregnant. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Jill.
Steve, well done. 10.
Did you like that one?
I did.
Did you?
I really did. Yes.
Thank you. I really did it just for you, as a matter of fact. It's really just for you.
Thank you.
Todd.
Thank you.
10.
I could tell.
Yeah, it was. Aaron.
10.
I actually, Jill, had one that was even cruder that I knew you would love.
You know what?
But I thought, frankly, it would offend the guys, and so I chose
We're
to
ahead of
water
schedule.
it down.
We're ahead of schedule. You can lay it on us.
No, that's all right. I'll save it for later. Okay, I'll save it for later. Let's just say it referenced an assuming of the position, and we'll just save it for later. Right. Speaking of Anthony Fauci, a great reminder of why we partnered up with our friends over at Deace Medical, because he taught us, unfortunately, as America's greatest serial killer, he taught us that you just cannot trust the public health apparatus in this country writ large anymore, and therefore take as much of your dominion over your healthcare as you can. Now, all of us are going to die, so, total autonomy over your healthcare is impossible, okay, because the death rate remains 100%. But, there's some we can do. I mean, we might not even be able to do 70% because there's just certain things you can't do for yourself. You can't operate on yourself, for example, all right? But there are things we can do in terms of preventative health, better lifestyle choices, and then also taking advantage of opportunities that, like Deace Medical provides. Get the Deace case to make sure the next time that we really need some award-winning medications, that things like doxycycline and amoxicillin aren't one of the ones banned. Or you can also expand your Deace case to customize it for your medications, and especially medications of a loved one. If they're on Medicare or Medicaid, then they are at complete mercy of the Hydra. So give them the peace of mind they need as well. Just go to jacemedical.com, JASE, jacemedical.com. Use the code DACE at checkout for the discount. Code DACE at checkout for the discount at jacemedical.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. Robert Morris.
The founder and pastor of one of the largest mega churches in America, Robert Morris of Gateway Church in the Dallas, Texas area, resigned this week. A woman came forward recently alleging Morris had an inappropriate sexual contact with her when she was 12. Morris had originally told his elder board he had had an inappropriate sexual relationship with a young lady, but did not tell his elders that young lady was 12. When the elders learned that information, Morris then resigned. Morris is the latest in a spate of Dallas, Texas megachurch pastors facing the consequences of old sin. T.D. Jakes was accused recently of taking part in orgies with rapper Diddy. Dr. Tony Evans recently stepped away from the pulpit for something undisclosed that happened years ago. And now, Robert Morris.
We should note the theological acumen of those 3 pastors are not necessarily equivocal for people that don't know, all right? So, T.D. Jakes would be more in a Paula White, Joel Osteen mode. All right. Robert Morris, for the uninitiated, Robert Morris would have been considered one of the most solid, biblically grounded, charismatic preachers in the country. And Tony Evans, we thought so much of his work theologically. We spent all of last year studying his book, Kingdom Politics. Nevertheless, the rest of the montage, of course, accurately portrays the situation. But I want to talk about Morris specifically. And I think we all agree, and if we don't, speak up when it's your turn. But I think we would all agree that everything can be forgiven. Jesus mentioned only one sin that was unforgivable, the blaspheming of the Holy Spirit. Okay. And so, Paul, if Paul did not encourage the martyrdom of Stephen, the first martyr in the church, he at least, we know for sure, held the tunics, which would have been considered an act of approval in that culture. Okay. He held the clothing of those who stoned him to death to make it, when they removed some outer garments, to make it easier to execute him. All right. That would have at least been looked at as a sign of approval. We also know that Paul was on mission to hunt down and arrest Christians. That's why he was even on the road to Damascus. Okay. Moses committed murder himself when he fled. Okay. So there are clear moments here where people have committed heinous acts. I mean, the first thing mentioned, as I've mentioned many times, when Jesus mentions who goes to the lake of fire, the first people mentioned are cowards. Peter, one of the leaders of the early church, if not the leader, he denies Christ 3 times, okay, in an act of cowardice. So, the Romans chapter 8 is my favorite chapter of Scripture, has much to say about how far, wide, and deep the grace of God goes. I want to focus specifically, however, on a position of authority. and something that happened while you were already a believer. In this case with Robert Morris, he molested this girl allegedly when he was already a pastor and married with his own child. And that this relationship went on for several years. We have a word for what happens when you initiate sexual contact with a pubescent or prepubescent, and then you carry that forth over the course of a period of time, and that word is grooming. All right, so he molested and groomed this girl. I absolutely believe this story wouldn't change my mind, and I've said this many times. I think all convicted pedophiles, groomers, child molesters, and child pornographers ought to be executed, and the Levitical law would agree with me on that. So but that doesn't mean you can't be forgiven. I mean, I could see Christ can forgive a serial killer. Doesn't mean he doesn't want him held accountable for his actions. So I want us to focus specifically on the idea of ecclesiastical authority. Okay. Do you believe you can sexually assault and groom a child and then later lead a church? Aaron, I'll start with you.
No, because you should be in jail. You should be in prison at the very least. Now, in prison, let's say, as I understand, I know it's a stereotype. I assume there's some grain of truth to it, that child molesters, rapists are treated very, very poorly by the fellow inmate population at prisons. Let's say you survive that and you come to a sincere repentance. It's obvious that I guess he was out of the pulpit or out of ministry for 2 years.
As a result of this, he went through freedom counseling. Yep.
Obviously, the totality of what he was repenting for was not disclosed there. So that wasn't, in my mind, just from my perspective, what I know about this situation, that wasn't a full repentance. He tried to do the same thing this time, is what it sounds like. Yeah, I had an inappropriate relationship with a young lady. Again, not the totality of the circumstances there. Not a totality of repentance, in my mind. So, no. I think the answer is no. This is where the civil authorities have to come in and do their job as well. I don't know what the statute of limitations for this is, but the civil authorities should have been invoked way back then. And shame on whoever the elders were that girl's father went to, as I understand again in this situation, that they tried to sweep this under the rug. And successfully so, it seems like. So, no. The answer is no, in my opinion. If you got through the process, the initiation process in prison, and you came to sincere repentance, let's just say that the earthly consequences are what they are. I believe they should be one thing, much in line with what Steve said. Let's let God sort this out in eternity. But if the minimum punishment is prison, it's almost more effective of a witness if you say, no, I'm not qualified to teach or lead a Bible study from prison.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost more of an effective witness in my mind.
As far as we know, he has not admitted that she was 12. He admitted that he had inappropriate relations with a young lady many years ago, but the church is claiming and the public did not know that the girl was as young as 12, which makes it a crime, not adultery, a crime. And it's also clear, Todd, if you look at the fruit of his ministry, it is very clear God blessed this ministry. He has been a fairly faithful preacher of the Word of God for many, many years. But Moses was forgiven and restored, but Moses was punished for the murder he committed. He went into exile. He spent 40 years out in the desert as a sheep herder, right? Later, when Moses sins by not speaking to have water come forth from the rock, God says to Moses, "Hey, you didn't follow my word. There'll be consequences. Now you will not get to go you will not get to lead the Israelites into the promised land." You see what I'm saying? That God was patient for 40 years. This guy could have come completely clean about the nature of this and what really went on, and never really did. So you're kind of, in my view, you're seeing, God on one hand rewarded, his desire to be faithful in preaching the gospel by using him to bring sinners to him. But in the end, a holy God has to hold him accountable for these actions. And I think that's what's going on right now. What do you think?
I think absolutely he should be a pastor. I mean, Why draw the line here? We're not drawing them anywhere else. This is who we want. I have a hard time taking this. The way you phrased it is just so rub your nose in it brilliant, whether you intended it or not. I just love it. The fact that we are the rival or not show, and we're asking whether guy who molested a 12-year-old. I mean, there's no church. This is the same Catholic Church priests. No matter how long they did ago before the story finally broke, they shuffled people around. What do we even know? What forgiveness is in the church? They were faithful to the word. Why? Because they said it? There's no church out there, folks. For the most part. Most of you go to church because you want the Oprah show. Honestly, he's not. If you find him a little icky right now, there's just a couple steps forward from that. That's the stuff you're all saying should happen in the name of kindness. This is a joke. Most Orthodox priests and or pastors are the ones most people really hate. Not this guy. Which is why they just shuffle him off and offer a chance. Because let's face it, most everybody sees a lot of him in them. And they don't want to go there. We're not close to serious.
Jill, what say you?
Go after Todd, and that's one of the most depressing things that Todd has actually said on this show, which is a pretty high bar. I would say that I agree a lot with what Aaron had said earlier in that, yes, it's a criminal matter. You should go through the criminal justice system, figure out what you can do. Repentance is a real thing, and if you are somehow able to get out on the other side, go get a job, whatever, that's your life, then you can have that as your life. Should it be a job in ministry? No. And think that I'll go from this angle is the framing of everything here. Oh, she was a young lady. The elders of the church put out a statement once this all resurfaced last week saying that Robert had been open and forthcoming about all of this stuff. Okay, so you're saying that this man is really talented at his job and we don't want to lose him. So instead of protecting the innocence of a child, we're going to protect a pastor who has been able to draw a lot of people into the faith, right? Like that alone is wrong. We should not be protecting a man like that. We should be protecting the innocent children. And it's just one more instance that if you're not a believer and you see this story, you're going, yep. That's what I thought about all of them the whole time. It doesn't help to have something like this swept under the rug and come out 30, 40 years later. Then it's just, unfortunately, like Todd said, with the Catholic Church, we had dealt with this for a very long time as well. And it's just one of those things that you try and rid it, but the people at the top, the people that are in charge in positions of power aren't dealing with it properly. And everything else is downstream from that.
Well said, all of you. Exit question, going back to the pairing of those three. Is this becoming more of a problem in this era of the church, or are we just more aware of it now because of the nature of media and social media? Real quickly. We have about a minute. Aaron, go.
I think this is one of the rotten fruits of the sexual revolution that is somewhat unique in this era.
Okay. Todd, what do you think it is? Is it the sexual revolution as Aaron? Do you think it's just more social media makes us more aware?
No, it's definitely more prominent now because the people who do it never see any consequences. Protestant or Catholic, some of the men who did this in the past would have just been dragged out into the forest and they wouldn't have come back. And we all know that's true until relatively recently. The law.
You're right about that. Joe, quickly, what do you think it is?
Completely agree with the guys. It's definitely more prevalent now with social media.
I still can't get over her dad not calling the police. We'll come back and we'll check in on how Pride Month is doing. What a segue. Next.
The Steve Deace Show.
Well, much of what we're going to talk about here with Pride Month comes courtesy of corporate America, writing big checks for it. That's why if you're looking for places where you can do business with people who don't hate you and aren't trying to end your way of life, unfortunately, there's not a lot of places for you to go. Fortunately, there is a place for you to go with one product we all need to use nowadays, our mobile phones. Make the switch today to our friends over at Patriot Mobile. For a decade now, they have been on the vanguard of the parallel economy. They're America's only American mobile phone provider left, with a customer service team based in the United States, which means you can actually understand them. And such a great customer service team they are. So many customizable options. You can upgrade your phone, keep your phone, change your number, keep your number. Maybe you just really like all those GOP spam robo calls asking you for money, so you want to make sure everyone knows your number. You can do that too. They'll make it happen for you no matter where you want. And as I've told you before, I cannot think of too many national conservative events I've been to in the last few years that Patriot Mobile did not write a check to help sponsor. They do reinvest back into the kingdom. All right. So if you want to be a part of making that switch today and building that kingdom of the parallel economy, make the switch and use my name, Steve, as your promo code to get a free activation when you go to patriotmobile.com/Steve. Again, that's patriotmobile.com/Steve, and use the promo code Steve at patriotmobile.com/Steve. All right, let's welcome back in our colleague and good friend Jill Savage as we continue on your weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3. Let's have a little Pride Month check-in, shall we?
What isn't gay? If you go on Twitter, very little. The Buffalo Bills are gay. The White House is gay, although that's been gay for a long time with Karine Jean-Pierre at the helm of the White House press room. Legos are gay. MAGA is trans now, apparently. Miss Rachel has a tranny doppelganger. And increasing lengths of pavement all around the country are super gay for reasons. But what is it like in the real world? Target has supposedly decreased its pride displays. Maybe we're desensitized, but it seems like businesses out in the real world as well aren't nearly as rainbow-clad as they have been in the past. So what gives?
What gives indeed? Let's start here. Todd, I'll start with you. True or false, outside of Twitter/X, which is the most prominent social media app in America when it comes to political messaging, outside of that world, Pride Month is definitely muted on the ground here and everywhere compared to the last few years. What do you think? True or false?
I think that's false. I mean, my girls, different social media, different world. They say it's everywhere, and to the extent we may sense that it's muted, I think the only reason that might be the case is because it's an election year, in which case it's not actually, it's just being manipulated. There's no reason to believe in anything good by what we've seen so far within Pride Month. Any lessons learned, if that's where any of this is going? No.
What do you think, Jill? On the ground. You're down there in the DFW now. What do you think? Is it everywhere where you go? Because it's not in Iowa, at least. But then again, Todd's daughters with their circles would see a world that I don't as a 50-year-old man. What do you see down there in the DFW?
No, I mean, we see the sidewalks like Aaron had in the montage, but outside of people doing the wheelies on the sidewalks and trying to, have all the tire tracks everywhere, which is apparently the biggest hate crime that you can do right now in the month of June in America, so we're told. Outside of that, I would say true to this. And I was the person who came on the show, I believe it was last year, the Deace Group, probably the last week of May, saying, if you thought that was bad, just wait until we get to Pride Month. And we were all kind of let down last year, if you remember. It wasn't as bad as it had been before. We weren't really smacked over the face with Pride Month like we had
we were
been
expecting
before.
hell, and we only got Babylon. So it was just like this, that's a win.
100%. And if this is the world that we're living in, if we're all like feeling like Todd on vinegar all day, every day, this isn't that bad.
Aaron?
I mean, again, I would totally agree with him. It's the election. It's the election year, and things are already terrible right now. So we just have to make up in other areas, and this is where they're choosing to kind of be like a little bit more normalcy in the month of June.
What do you think? We downgrade last year. Jill's right. We downgraded from hell on earth to Babylon. Are we just now? Have we downgraded further now? We've just gone from Babylon to San Francisco. What do you think, Aaron?
I have some very bad news for all of you. It's absolutely more muted than it has been in the past. I think subjectively and objectively, just from what I see, and I think just
Are we
across the board.
desensitized? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Okay.
What did we say about Sweden during COVID and some of the other European countries? How they were more open with their data. How
Because they
were
already had
more
all the power
honest.
they needed, so they didn't have to destroy their civilization. Is that what it is?
Bingo. They won.
Interesting.
No need to put this in everybody's face. The Deace Group just spent 15 minutes talking about whether or not a pastor can be restored to ministry.
Holy crap, dude. That is so Vanta Black. We need to just stop right now.
I know. I'm sorry.
Wow. You just did my own movie scene back at me. We didn't even come up with that one.
Yes.
You did this all to yourselves. Sometimes you amazed even us. You just did my own movie scene right back to me is what you just did. And I am broken and triggered like I was yesterday. I'm just triggered again. I'm triggered right now. I am triggered again. Aaron.
That's why I get paid the big bucks.
I mean, we moved on to arresting a doctor who said, "Hey, we shouldn't be transing the
kids."
Like I said, I was hoping that we weren't trying to be optimistic about this. Because that's a sign of failure on our part. It is. We should not be optimistic that it's just finally worked its way out. Are rubber bands coming back? No.
That is the most Todd Erzen take of all time. I was worried that we were going to be optimistic about this because there's nothing to be optimistic about. That is perfect. Go ahead, Jill. I'm sorry.
Note.
Yes.
Take note, listeners, because we are trying to give you some optimism heading into your weekend, and Todd is saying, absolutely not.
I will not have this. We will not have this optimism here. Before, you know what? Let's do this. Let's get to the exit question now and give you guys time to think of the exit or the kicker topic. Exit question. What is the most ridiculous Pride Month offering you saw this year? Aaron, what is it?
Man, it's got to be the Miss Rachel, because we used to have Miss Rachel in our home. It's probably not something you and Todd are familiar with, but a really great YouTuber for children, helps them learn words, and she just went full bending the knee. We're going to twist scripture to loving thy neighbor means accepting trannies now. So that's probably the most ridiculous one that I've seen so far.
Todd?
Oh, it's definitely Buffalo Bills gay flag football. I mean, this thing is going to be pushed so far in your face, sports bros. You're going to have tranny cheerleaders on all the sidelines. Yay! Hercules! You know it.
Hercules.
Pathetic.
What a reference.
Pathetic.
What a great reference that is. Oh my gosh, I love that reference. That was perfect. Jill, go ahead. What a reference.
If Todd ever needs to make a reel, today's episode is
You made
going
Eddie
to be
Murphy
the one
proud.
that he
You made
needs to
Eddie
go
Murphy
back.
proud. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is it. I'm just going to go with the queer eye for the straight guy at the White House, because that is, it's kind of one of those things that's expected but also comforting when you see what we actually know is going to come to be, and then it actually happens. So I'm going to go with that.
By the way, just got this note from Lawrence Todd, who says, I figured out why Buffalo is sponsoring a gay football team. They can't get Major League Soccer up there. It's a great take. Totally agree. By the way, speaking of Todd, if you like the new Blaze shirt he's wearing on the show today, you can get that kind of swag and more. You can get our new logo here, like you see on my coffee cup, that the Blaze actually let us design. Our new show swag, in fact, with the candle shining in the darkness there, with their slogan, Truth Be Told. That and more available with the code STEVE10 when you go to shopblazemedia.com. Hoodies, t-shirts, whatever you're looking for. Shopblazemedia.com. However, we don't have a Lindsey Graham line, so there won't be any dog collars. Shop Blaze, or chaps for that matter. Shopblazemedia.com. Use the code STEVE10 for 10% off at shopblazemedia.com, code STEVE10. That was also for you, Jill. Let's get to our kicker topic, all right? If you could pick one thing to market for Pride Month, what would it be and why? Jill, I'll start with you.
I'll start with the why, is because I'm a corporate girl now here down at Blaze Media. And Steve, I'm not kidding. This is already in my notes. go to shopblazemedia.com because our friend and colleague, Allie Beth Stuckey, actually has a rainbow shirt for the month of June. She's trying to take back the rainbow, and it's a Noah's Covenant month shirt that she is selling out there. So I had no idea you were going to do that promo going into this, but it's a bit fortuitous as it is, because I do think that if we make a concerted marketing effort, we have a 1 in 1.000% chance that we can actually take back the rainbow. So let's try.
Nice. I didn't know that Allie was doing that. Very cool. All right, Todd.
Yeah.
What would you market for Pride Month if you could, and why?
Well, the trans terrorists love painting concrete all over the streets. Well, I've got concrete you can paint. Come paint my millstones. They'll still work.
Pink millstones?
Whatever.
Pink millstones? What do you charge for pink millstones? I'm thinking $666 a stone. What do you think?
Whatever. I'm a market guy, I guess, Steve. Whatever the market bears.
Maybe we just give those out for free. I mean, you can just say, hey, you earned it.
I'm open to aggressive negotiations.
Aggressive negotiations. Aaron, I still can't get over the Eddie Murphy reference there. That was great. Eddie, go ahead, Aaron.
What would I market for Pride Month? The Denver Broncos, because I wouldn't have to change anything.
Nice. Nice. Very nice. All right. Let's get to predictions, and I'm going to go first, which, again, I don't do, but I'm going to do it 2 weeks in a row. Okay? Full-fledged revenue sharing will be in place in collegiate athletics in time for the next academic year, 25-26, and it will include all sports. But it will be heavily weighted toward which sports draw the most revenue, how much revenue a sport actually generates on its own. So I think you'll see football and men's basketball players will not get all of it, but I think they're going to end up getting about 80 to 85% of it. And then I think it'll be split up the rest from there. I think women's basketball players will get the next cut because their tournament is actually a revenue draw now. But that is how they will attempt to get around Title IX, is they will prorate it based on the amount of revenue your sport generates, but everybody will get a cut of it. Jill, as a former sports reporter yourself, your thoughts on that?
I could totally see that happening. I'm actually more interested with the mood that Todd is in. I think that we need Todd's take. I mean, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the audience as somebody who listens to this show all the time.
Well, we've only got 4.5 minutes. I don't know that we have time for Todd's take, but go ahead, Todd.
Todd, can I interject here? I think I've gotten to the crux of why I've walked in here during a break, as I've been out getting coffee, and you guys are yelling at each other. This has happened literally dozens of times over the past 2 years. You're just yelling at each other, and you're like, agree on everything, but you're still yelling at each other. Todd, true or false? If you thought 90 to 95%, I'm not even talking about the totality, just 90 to 95% of what's happening right now in collegiate athletics was a legitimate capitalization on that people are kind of finally being able to capitalize on what they bring to the table. If you thought that was 90, like a vast plurality, a super majority of what was happening here, you would be fine with it.
I don't understand the question because that's not even close to what's going on here. I can't, that's a fiction you're talking about.
Correct. That's the crux of where you guys differ. You don't disagree that people should be able to make money for what they capitalize on their talents and abilities. You don't disagree with that, but you just don't think that's anything close to what's happening
I'm certain it's nothing close.
That's where the friction is.
All right, Todd, your prediction?
Every NFL team will be mandated to have a trans.
A Trans Am for the star quarterback?
Part of the part of the hierarchy within the next 5 years.
I hope the Lions, it just has full 5 o'clock shadow and a hairy chest buttoned down like Sonny Crockett from '86, and just owns it, man. And out there in a Sonny Crockett chest muff.
You've thought
but
about
wearing
this.
No, I'm just thinking about it right now. I'm inspired. Todd's a muse. And he's out there, Hercules, with a mini skirt. Go Lions! Go Lions! All right, go Lions!
Nothing will change. That's the crack I'm talking about. That's the crack.
Oh, there'll be some crack for sure.
You can laugh at Joe Biden all you want. Average sports bro, puts him to shame.
I remember when it was when you could go to the mall and you could buy a shirt of Bart Simpson bending over showing plumber's crack. And it said crack kills. I remember when you could do that. I bought one of those, actually. You get arrested for that shirt now, okay? But I remember when I was in high school, you could go buy that shirt. Now it's a hate crime. Aaron, what's your prediction?
We are 41 days away, ladies and gentlemen, from the most wonderful game of the year. That is the NFL Hall of Fame game.
You are not making a prediction. Fame game for 41 days.
I hope he is.
He's about to pull the trigger. The Chicago Bears.
What are we doing?
Will defeat the Houston Texans 17-12.
A bunch of guys who won't be even on the team, but auditioning for tranny cheerleaders within 2 years.
That one was just for you, Todd.
Over there. So many idols to polish. So many.
All right, Jill, go ahead. What's your prediction?
Will the real Joe Biden please stand up? That whoever they march out on that stage for the debate next Thursday night will be seated and will be able to get through the debate just fine, whether it is the actual Joe Biden on whatever cocktail they put together or, any other ways that our military could go out and make that happen. Joe Biden will get through the debate next week.
Are we talking all about Biden on this thing? Because we have absolutely zero to subterranean expectations of Trump? Is that why?
I think Trump is an irrelevant figure in this exercise because of the way it's been set up. He's agreed to all their demands. He agreed to their timing. He made himself irrelevant. He walked into a situation where they cannot lose. They cannot lose. Well, there's one way they could lose, I guess, which is the guy face plants and they keep him. But if they were going to do that, then why the hell are you holding a debate on June 27th? You see what I'm saying? If the plan was to let the guy go in there and face plant, you're not exposing him on June 27th. All right? You're not doing that. You're doing this now to find out what he's got. Okay?
The aforementioned football season starts in August and goes all the way through Election Day. There's a lot of reasons people will forget.
Actually, Todd, with the new 12-team college football playoff, I know you love.
Oh, my God.
The season goes till January
Just
20th,
awful.
and then the Super Bowl is Valentine's Day weekend now.
Awful person. Just an awful human being.
This might be my favorite Deace Group ever, you guys. I'm not kidding. This might be the best one that I've ever been a part of.
Well, you're a big reason why, Jill. Thank you. We'll come back. It's always good to see you. We'll come back with Feedback Friday in a moment. All right, back here with Hour 2 here on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd Erzen, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, Me, We, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. If you listen to the podcast version, thank you. Please, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a 5-star review to show how much you like the show. Thanks to all of you who have. We are coming up to 10,000 of those on iTunes alone. So please keep those coming. We appreciate that. Also, hit subscribe, or if you are on iTunes, follow, because that'll make sure that every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your feed every single time. And we thank all of you that have done that too. This part of the show brought to you by our friends over at Voice of Judah. There is an excellent opportunity, an excellent ministry opportunity right now within the nation of Israel. And in our audience, there's going to be, a diversity of opinion. Some of you are going to agree that we have a sacred honor to stand with Israel. Some of you have a different view, but all of us can agree that this is an opportunity to bring the gospel to the Holy Land via Voice of Judah. There are, as secular as Israel has become, that has ironically created an opening. where young people, this is one of the youngest median aged developed countries in the world, and young people don't know about a lot of the debates and differences that have gone on in the past. And this is an opportunity to introduce the Jewish people to Messiah, to bring the gospel to the place where it was birthed in the first place and given to the rest of us. If you want to be a friend to Israel, Voice of Judah Israel is a messianic ministry. It's focused on the heartland of Israel. It both serves in terms of preaching and also in terms of support and help for the nation of Israel, especially at this critical time, to fulfill the opportunity or duty, depending on your perspective, as Christians to bless the Jewish people. So the fields are ripe, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So this is your chance to send more workers out into that harvest. You can visit their website at vojisrael.org/Steve. That's vojisrael.org/Steve. Voice of Judah is what VOJ stands for. vojisrael.org/Steve. You know, we're studying Romans. And Paul talks about the fact there will be a moment at the close to the end of time where there will be one great harvest of the Jewish people for the gospel. Who knows? This may be that moment. We don't know. vojisrael.org/Steve. That's vojisrael.org/Steve. All right, you guys ready for some Feedback Friday?
Yes.
Yep. You know, I did not plan it this way. But just as some things kind of fortunately worked themselves out with Jill, and she was talking about what her kicker topic answer was with, that we had just done the live read for Blaze swag, and she's like, well, at least Stucky's got some Take Back the Rainbow swag, right? Okay. I didn't plan it this way when I ordered these, but it's going to work out perfectly. Travis writes, Aaron, are you ready?
No.
Gird your
obviously.
loins. Gird your loins. Okay. Travis writes, I'm confused as to why Todd thinks paying college athletes is such an important moral issue. He keeps saying this is unethical and immoral, but I've not heard him make the case about ethics and morals and how this goes against ethics and morals and will ruin college sports. When you strip it down to the underlying issue, what is immoral about a college athlete being paid for their services? If we look out of the realm of sports, would we feel the same way? If a computer scientist major made something amazing in the school's computer lab, they could say that invention belongs to the university and we get all the profits, or they could decide, even though you used our resources, you created this, so we want to give you a percentage and share the profits. Would we say in that matter is immoral? I love the show and your biblical worldview focus, and I would love it if Todd would further explain why he thinks this is immoral. So Todd, I will not rebut at all. I will give you the floor. Take as much time as you need to answer Travis.
Well, first of all, nice idol you got there. Second,
what did you do, Travis?
You haven't heard me. You haven't heard me explain. I hit this note a little bit, don't I, guys? But I never explained. I know we've talked about this, Steve, in this very specific context. I can't remember if it was on air or not. But you actually bring it that doesn't happen. Oh, by the way. Steve and I talked about this. I just can't remember if it's on air. The blue chippers that they bring in to cure cancer at research universities. Are we having this discussion about them? Gotcha. We're not. Because you're worshiping an idol, and there we understand the appropriate context of all this. Can you imagine if modern universities overcome by wokeness, they're more on target in terms of being reasonable than the sports side of things? We don't do what you're saying. There's grad students, geniuses, working on their PhD, helping to cure cancer. Are we making them millionaires? Guys, think. Connect the dots before you ask something like this that's so obviously untrue. That's why I said right out of the gate, nice idol you got there. Face it, you all have a different standard for this. No matter how well-meaning you are, no how much you check the God box on Sunday or any other day, you won't let God touch this. It's an idol.
Can I ask? I'm not going to rebut. I just want to ask. I'll keep my word. I just want to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you think are you saying that in any context, people playing athletics should not be making more money, period, than people that are doing more laudable endeavors, just as a general rule.
Certainly not in college.
Okay.
It's this thing is college sports is ultimately based on the motto established by the Greeks. It's part of the larger whole, mind, body, soul. Plato's the Academy, the Lyceum. It's all supposed to be part of that. This is so grotesquely, and the lies told about this is these are market forces. This is a business. It's all to defend the idol. And where a bunch of grown men who have 100 other things to do prioritize with their time and their energy and their emotions. This as much or more than anything else. And if you look in the mirror and are honest about that, you know it to be true.
Aaron, did you want to add anything to this?
If this were still somehow, and I gotta caution myself with hypotheticals, because east of Eden, you can concoct any version of, well, if things were different, and there's never going to be a perfect scenario. Was college football ever perfect? No. No institution is this side of heaven. No. Was it better in a previous era? Yes. My fear here, and I'm just trying to illustrate kind of my change of thinking in this, I agree that people need to be paid what they're worth. However, the reason why college football players, some of them, a minority of them, are worth what they are is because too many people have prioritized college football at a place that it should not be in their lives. It's a pastime that's way too popular. Again, there's nothing intrinsically unique about this in terms of sports leagues and in terms of pastimes. I think it's dialed up to 11 in this era. I think Todd wouldn't have any problem with this. I wouldn't have any problem with this, speaking for myself, if at the end of the day, the driving force behind, I should say, every coach, every recruit, every player was merit first and everything else second, including money. Sure, pay them. If it came to the conclusion that, you know what, it's actually not fair, they're bringing in a lot of money, we should pay them something. We should pay them something that close to what they're worth. As long as merit and tradition, teammates, camaraderie, what have you. If all of those values were placed ahead of the money, this would be an easier pill to swallow. That's not the case right now. I think it's mostly driven by ego, greed, and in some cases, this is reparations, that type of thing. So that's kind of where I'm coming down on this.
And unethical, at least in the past, the money, all boats rose with the tide. Other men's sports, women's sports, other non-Division I sport, all of them are being hurt by this. For what? For what? I don't. How can you be so obtuse? And there's only one answer to that. It's the idle answer. If you're asking me how this is ethical or not, and I haven't made myself clear yet, good grief, what else? What else do I have to say or do? Disagree with me all we want, but I'm being pretty damn clear about it. And I hate that. If our show is really about smashing idols, we got to smash all of them. All of them.
Remember back in the day when you could be active and you felt great? Those were the days. Now you've got too much inflammation in your joints, chronic pain, lingering stiffness and achiness that won't go away, and you're like, I guess that won't happen anymore. Well, it may not. I can't guarantee you that we have this solution, but there's, according to our own data, 70% odds that we do. Because over the years, over 1 million people have taken the 3-week quick start at Relief Factor and have seen such good results that 70% of them have hung around and kept with the product long term. So What do you got to lose for $20 to see if in 3 weeks, if you don't see a difference in your pain or less? And Relief Factor is a drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs, but they wanted to create something that was drug-free that would not just mask the pain, but go after the inflammation in your joints causing the pain in the first place. And that's what Relief Factor seeks to do. Again, it's just $20 to see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less. Give it a shot. What do you got to lose for $20? Go to relieffactor.com to give it a try. That's relieffactor.com. Once again, head over to relieffactor.com. Austin Dam writes the following. I want to provide a scenario to test the prevailing thought on the impending changes to college sports. Before we start, here are some important facts and assumptions. Number one, the average D1 college athlete puts in somewhere between 30 and 40 hours per week. If we say they are 40-hour work weeks, that's 1,200 to 16 hours per year. The University of Michigan has over 900 college athletes. We'll assume that Michigan will spend $22 million on athletes' salaries, all of which goes to football and men's basketball. There are 116 football players and 15 men's basketball players at Michigan for 131 paid athletes in total. $22 million divided evenly among 131 athletes comes out to $168,000 a year per athlete. We'll assume that courts have ruled that schools are not required to pay female athletes equally to their male counterparts under Title IX. So with those assumptions, here's our scenario. Jane is the star player on the women's soccer team. She leads the team in goals and is up for several conference and national honors. After one particularly frustrating travel experience, Jane decides to document an average week for her on her TikTok and Instagram. She accounts for every hour of the week in the video. At the end of the video, she notes that she gets paid $0 per hour. She then does the same video, but for her boyfriend on the football team. The video is similar, except it comes out that he gets paid $105 per hour. These videos spread on campus, and before long, the campus is embroiled in protest, occupations, etc., demanding equal pay for the women's athletes. Gretchen Whitmer and others arrive to give speeches and rile up the crowd. The school eventually folds, and soon schools around the country follow suit and pay all of their athletes equally. I believe that regardless of the school's legal obligations, the campus environments will eventually force equal pay, which would be about $24,400 in this case. That's a low number, and I'd expect that similar tactics would be used to further raise the salary cap. I don't agree with any of this, actually, but go ahead, Aaron. Seems like you do.
I'm not sure if I agree with it or not. I just love the way he's doing the math here.
Yeah, I mean, I love his assumption. I just don't think it would happen.
It's just... You're getting inside the mouth of madness, man. And dig that about you.
That's true. I dig it too. I hear you. Yeah. Here's why I don't think this would happen, because it hasn't happened all this time when coaches got paid more. It hasn't happened all this time when one team's sport gets to fly on private jets and the other does not, or one team gets cost of attendance, the other does not. One team gets unique buildings and opportunities for academic support and video games and barbershops and water slides like at Clemson, and other teams don't. This is where, Aaron, your assumption that we were not going to suffer lockdowns for very long because it got in it disrupted the hierarchy of idols, basically, that we would want our decadence first. Okay, in this case, the reason why this hasn't happened on all these campuses up until now, and it won't with this either. One, I think that the women athletes will get paid something, but two, it's because this is where Todd's idolatry theory comes into play. The chief idol here is the sport. It's the front porch of the university. It's worth way more than anything else. And now they're worth way more than ever before. And in the end, money talks, and you know what walks. That's why I don't think this will happen. But I found it fascinating, which is why I chose to share it. Todd, you want to comment on it?
We have to go back. I love how all the smart people are just getting dumber and dumber and dumber about what they think a market is, what they think business is, what they think ethics are. My goodness, I would, if I could, I would snap my fingers and take this away, and then you would see. But we deserve, honestly, we deserve this election. We deserve the pastors we get. We deserve... This is so profoundly perfect that this is going on. I mean, pick any bread and circus throughout all human history. Can't match this one. It can't.
Let's talk about ourselves. All right. Joel in San Antonio. Thank you guys for all your hard work. And I love all you guys do for the cause. I've got a question for all three of you. What does a typical workday look like for each of you? You're all dads and have families to tend to, so I'm curious to know how y'all's show prep goes daily. How do you manage your time? And then how does the weekend look like? Because the news cycle never stops. I can only imagine that you all are working 7 days a week in some form or another. So I think that's an excellent question. I'm surprised we haven't been asked this more often. Who wants to go first?
Well, I guess it's sort of 7 days a week, if you want it to be, just to keep up, make sure you're not getting behind on the news cycle, because if enough things are breaking, not only playing catch up with what may or may not, like Steve has pointed out, you don't even know what's actual news anymore, what's true, but processing it in your own mind, giving it a fair reading, and so we can bring something to you when we get on air. Steve is, and I've learned through him the importance and the enjoyment of just going cold and just being ready to answer anything and everything. But that's, we've done our homework before. It doesn't mean we know exactly what we're going to say, but we know what's going on. So to the extent that it's a 7 day a week job, I guess that's. But my mornings are, I'd imagine, similar to Steve's in terms of just getting ready for the breaking news of the day. Sometimes I have to do the things that that I do, follow up with guests, prepare questions, things like that after work, do writing sometimes, contribute on social media. So it's pretty fluid on my end.
Aaron?
So it is fluid as well, but generally speaking, a typical day for me, it's kind of changed a little bit since Abby got here, just because there's some extra things that I'm needed for at home, which means there's more things I have to prepare for at home, whether it's making sure I at least have a rundown, kind of an outline for the montage or other things, or just making sure I have some structure so that I can be as productive, actually creating when I'm here as possible. But usually it's like get up, have breakfast, help the toddler have breakfast a lot of days, or sometimes cooking breakfast for everybody. I'm in here I can range just between how the morning's going with a toddler and a newborn, anywhere from 8:15 to 9:15. And then all of that time, pretty much 75% of that time is preparing and producing the montage that I've already kind of prepped the night before. And then we do the show, post-show stuff. Steve and I have a side gig that will keep me here on the days that we do that till 4 or so, go home, and then the next few hours are just family time, taking the toddler off the back of mama and spending some time with him. And then we do bedtime, and then there's about an hour or so most nights that I get to spend with Bella. We're usually watching something, just kind of some downtime together. And then I've got a side thing that I do that keeps me up until 11 or so at night, and then we start it all over again. So that's a typical day.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you guys said. I'll add a couple things. I have an unfair advantage in this business with a photographic memory, and the Lord just gave me an amazing recall ability. So, if I check all week long, if I check, Twitter for 5 to 10 minutes every few hours, I can pretty much stay up to speed on everything and never fall that far behind. There's always dedicated family time that is put in there where these things are all set aside to make sure that they have the time where they are the priority. But those two talents give me an advantage in making that last event that I want to make happen, but dedicated family time, wife time, couple time, help with making that happen. I just don't require the amount of time to fully prepare to do this that some other people might, just because the way the Lord made me gives me a great advantage where this is concerned. But yeah, the idea that you can just work 8 to 5 in this job is not true. I mean, you could do a normal 40-hour week, but it might be 4 hours and then a couple hours off and another 2 or 3 hours. You see what I'm saying? I mean, just because the news doesn't stop, And so the idea that I'm just going to no longer be, aware of what is happening in the world so that I'm not prepared to ever discuss it, that's just not an option with this, But you can absolutely not have to work 40, 50 hours a week concurrently. You'll end up doing that by the time it is over, but you won't have to necessarily do that concurrently. And again, in my case, I just, I thank the Lord I've got an unfair advantage with a couple of qualities he gave me. He didn't give me 7 feet tall and the ability to dunk a basketball. And, I can't put a draw on a 350-yard, driver either. I can't do that either, down the middle of amen corner. I can't do that either. But this I can do. These are the gifts he gave me, and that makes this just really helpful to me to make sure that the family still feels like they are a priority. So anything else on that?
No, good.
But yeah, I mean, what Todd said too, the ability to have to address multiple topics simultaneously in a given show organically, that is also, if you're going to do this for a living, there are some skills you just have to have. You've got to be quick on your feet, okay? There's a lot of brilliant people, like cosmically brilliant people that are intellectually, they're like a fullback, all right? They take a little time to kind of warm up, right? And to assess the issue or the problem or the argument. And then like when they get their shoulders square and get free of the line of scrimmage and they're, as Chris Berman used to say, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the field, once they've got momentum, you're not taking them down, right? But if you got them behind the line of scrimmage, then they look pretty mortal, right? Okay? In this line of work, you don't have to be brilliant, but you do have to be quick on your feet. You are not given the benefit of, well, let me, think about that and ponder it for a week. Nope. Okay. And so, there are some things in this line of work, some skills you're going to have to be successful. And one of them is you do have to be quick on the draw. You do. You have to be flexible and malleable with your ability to discuss, any particular topic and a myriad of topics at a given time, But the other thing too is you have to be okay with people hating you. Well, you don't. Then you can just become a grifter. But if you want to be honest, you have to put up with the fact that, there are people that are going to hate you no matter what you do because you're giving opinions. And so every time you speak, there's going to be something someone disagrees with, and they might even be right.
There's a guy out there. I mean, this is always going to stick in my mind. There's a guy out there who tried to make the case that it is Steve Deace's fault that we are in the position we are in as a nation because you didn't get on board with Ron Paul in 2012. Case in point.
Yeah, I mean, I get blamed for all kinds of stuff. Like, I can't even imagine if you've got a Shapiro Beck-sized audience, which you get blamed for, just because the volume of people, that your capacity is so much more amplified, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I have, sooner or later I'll get blamed for virtually everything, and that's just, that's part of the gig. I get that. I'm a big boy. How much time do we have? Let's go here. The thing we greatly feared has come upon us. Our daughter's partner in their gay marriage are 6 weeks, her and her partner are 6 weeks pregnant by IVF. Our relationship has been good while not being accepting of what they call a marriage. They know how we feel about it. But now there will be an innocent baby involved. We did not know until the embryos were already created that this situation was so far along. I was very confused at that point as to how to pray, since praying it didn't work when 2 new human beings were already involved seemed questionable. I brought it to the Lord almost daily and then left it with him. They know how we feel about it, but now there is an innocent baby involved, a little boy who will grow up without a daddy. We have 10 grandkids already, but I don't want this child to miss out because of the poor decisions made by his parents. I have often wondered about how many gay couples who hopefully will repent someday and want to live right by God will be met by the churches, especially when children are involved. This will be a whole new ministry, and I don't think most, if any, churches are really preparing for it. Thoughts or guidance going forward? Signed, the grandma.
I don't think it's really a whole new ministry. I just think it's the same old people who like their sin. And we got to make sure that first and foremost that we start turning churches into place to remind people on the regular that they're sinners and not coming to the Oprah show. Don't overthink this on the gay end. We're failing, just generally speaking. What is a football? What's a church?
I agree with that. But I also like the fact, Grandma, that you want to put the focus on the child. The child didn't do anything wrong, is not responsible for this. So the key, I think, is the child you cannot let the child become an idol either way. You cannot abandon the child, because of the sinfulness of the parents, nor can you allow your love for the child to endorse the sinfulness of the parents, because I could see that being used against you for sure. Well, if you're not going to bless this, you can't see your grandkid. Okay, and Jesus, and I know that sucks. I can't even imagine it. Luckily, I'm not facing that situation yet, but I could. I've got 3 kids. Only one of them has a grandkid. I don't know what the futures are for Zoe and Noah. I think they're good, but I don't know. I can't see the future. I don't know. I mean, if you would have known me at Zoe and Noah's ages, you would have never guessed I'm where I'm at right now. I don't know the future. But I do know the one who knows the future warned us that in the future, because of him, mother would be against daughter, father against son, that it would divide us at a very intimate level. But the most intimate relationship we cannot be divided away from is our Lord. So if someone's going to put the child in the middle of a relationship, Aaron, let it be not you, but the other party.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Bless that child as much as you can, but do not turn the child into a reverse idol where in order to maintain the connection, now you affirm sin. You can't do that either.
It sounds like you are in a situation where, yes, the relationship is strained, and that is sad and tragic, but not strained to the point where they are... where they're just set apart from you. It sounds like once this kid comes into the world, that you might be able to have a relationship with him or her. So my advice would be this: as long as your daughter will possibly allow it, testify to the truth in word and deed, again, as long as possible, in that little kid's life, as long as you possibly can.
Amen. More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
Well, it is well known, particularly within an audience like this, that America's universities and schools have largely become Satan's youth ministries. But thankfully, there is at least one university still holding on to its founding vision. It's our friends over at Hillsdale, founded in 1844 to, quote, offer the kind of serious liberal arts education needed to preserve the blessings of civil and religious liberty across the land. That's small L liberal, by the way. That mission from 1844 continues to guide Hillsdale to this day, whether it's their native campus there in Michigan, which is beautiful, by the way, if you've ever been there, whether it is their other campus in Washington, D.C., or all the other work they do all over the country on behalf of liberty. They are still walking the narrow road there at Hillsdale. If you want to learn more about Hillsdale, go to daceforhillsdale.com. That's F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com. If you do, you're going to find a short video. It's just over a minute long, and it'll show you how Hillsdale's work, not only there in Michigan, D.C., but all throughout the fruited plain, helps defend American freedom and do so while being effective at the same time. So take some time to watch the video today at daceforhillsdale.com. That's daceforhillsdale.com. So I've been saving this one, and because I wasn't sure where it would fit in at any point on a Feedback Friday. So I am just going to randomly do it right now because I just found this story to be fascinating. You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is from Sean Higgins. I'm writing to tell you, and hopefully through you, the world about the good thing my father invented. If you think back far enough, there was a time before the supermarkets were full of bagged salad mix. This now ubiquitous convenience, which I've used many times, has its origin in the garage of my childhood home in the 1970s. And before that, in the mind of my dad. He and a partner had a produce supply business to restaurants in the Seattle area, and he ran it out of the United Fruit Company warehouse south of downtown. Listening to what the cafe owners told him would make their work easier, he started making a very simple side salad mix using a modified washing machine, adding in grated carrots and purple cabbage, and then sealing the mix up in heat-sealed thick plastic bags for ease of distribution. This process took place in our garage, and various aunts and uncles, of which there were many, helped with the process on the weekends. My brothers and sisters were not allowed in there at the time because they were too young. This went on for a couple of years until my dad and his partner decided to split the business. The partner taking the side that was selling the bagged salad mix to grocery stores, and my dad keeping the produce distribution business. His now ex-partner died soon after in a plane crash, and then my dad lost the rights to his idea to his partner's widow, who went on to print money off it with much grumbling on my family's part. Eventually, bagged salad mix caught on nationally, and the rest is history. My dad, Daniel Jerome Higgins, passed away on January 6th of this year. And as the unofficial defender of all things Americana, I thought you might be willing to publicize his contribution to making the world a better place than he found it. I've been a regular listener to your show since you guys joined the Blaze. I seldom miss, and you're always right on target. I just thought that was a fascinating story. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it has to be true, right? No one's going to make, of all the things you're going to make up your old man, got screwed out of, it's not that he invented, bagged salad. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to, not that there's anything wrong with that. I love bagged salad. It's been a part of my, staple of trying to lose 50 pounds this year. I'm just saying that is so specific of a thing, right? That you're not going to, if you came up with that as something to make up, I don't know whether to have you, be appalled and want you imprisoned or to be impressed and have you run for office. Okay. But so I think that this is true just because it's such a random thing that would be a claim to fame.
What's her name?
Sean Higgins is the name.
Sean, the best compliment I can pay your father is that he deserved way more money than a college football player.
Nice.
Given the obesity rates in our country, the thing our country probably needs more of is salad. So hats off. That is a fascinating story. A lot of twists and turns there that I was not expecting. And I'm actually glad that you read that on the air. And I agree. I don't know how to classify that, but that's a very interesting story.
And it was obviously a good idea because you walk into the produce section at our local high.
Oh, now there's like 30 of them.
The Caesar salad kind, the Southwest salad kind, and you get it's almost like that's the McDonald's thing, that the hot and the cold, but the parts are separated so then you can mix them together. I mean, it's a whole thing. So,
do you guys have any family claim to fames about stuff you guys did that you should have gotten credit for, but your family never did?
Oh, yeah.
Someone took something from you?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Years ago, I told my sister, we're both Potterheads, the idea that I have for a wand taser, like a wand that looks like the one in Harry Potter. I've brought this up on the air before, I think, as well. It's a brilliant idea, if I say so myself. A taser gun that looks like a wand from Harry Potter, okay?
Actually, I would buy one for sure.
And that way you can, when you let loose the spikes or whatever, the little hooks or whatever at the end of the taser gun, you can yell Crucio as whoever you're hitting with it writhes around on the ground in agony. I told her that many years ago. And then 2 years after I brought it up, she said, I have this great idea for a wand taser.
No, she did not.
Yes, she did. And she tried to take credit for it. And she has never once even considered the notion that she stole that idea from me.
I entered the Ben & Jerry's Name Your Ice Cream flavor, several times in a row, and
Let's
I never
share that
got
with
picked.
the public again. What was it called?
It was called Blueberry Hill.
Yes, it was.
Like the song, okay. and it was a fudge ice cream with a blueberry and marshmallow chunk swirl center. Okay. And it was called Blueberry Hill. I thought it sounded phenomenal. I still do to this very day, as a matter of fact. Don't you think that sounds good?
It sounds good.
Okay. I got a compliment from you. Thank you.
You get compliments from me all the time.
Okay. All right. What about you? No? Not on the Erzen family line?
Oh, he's got 1,000 variants of vinegar knocking around in his head.
No one wants to steal those ideas from me, though.
All right, let's go to this one to close. I want to tell you I bought a copy of Why Easter for our Sunday school class at church. It was a big hit. Thank you. Even the teachers liked it, but the feedback from the kids was great. One in particular asked if there were any more. I told her about why Thanksgiving and the soon-to-be why Independence Day. Thank you guys for being able to help us get through to our kids. I have a question. Since you cover politics through a biblical lens, I have a question about theocracy. As you know, Christians are being accused of wanting a theocracy in the United States. We started out that way and went to another system with the Israelites demanded a king. Since they were under the biblical law, the king would kind of work out. Before that, it was direct involvement from God by prophets, judges, and the like. My question is, should we want to go back to a theocracy? If so, since we are no longer under the law, how would that even work? Thank you guys very much for the Roman study. I'm 70. Todd is my spirit animal. That is from Deb. Well, first of all, Deb, I would say every government is a theocracy, ever. There's never been a government that wasn't. And the only question is who or what is the theo, and what does he, she, or it, or they, or them demand of us? Every government is. The first fully formal secular government in human history was the Soviet Union, and they went into a former church called the Kremlin and established themselves as gods. And that's so every government is a theocracy. Every government claims it has a divine right to rule, or it represents a god or a deity that it's associated with. And this has been true all throughout human history. We put a unique spin on it by saying that we were a government, a republic, but that our rights came from God, that the source of law was God. Okay, so we put a unique spin on it, but every government is a theocracy, every single one. Why? 2 iron laws of the universe, metaphysical certitudes. Something must always rule, something will always be worshipped. Again, something must always rule, something will always be worshipped. Now, theocracy can turn, as you mentioned in your email, it can take several forms. Okay? You mentioned that the 2 that are the most common are what's called a direct or indirect. You mentioned them both. When Israel was ruled by judges and prophets, that was a direct theocracy, meaning that God is specifically, God is always governing in the affairs of men, but that God is specifically choosing individuals to govern other individuals through, not just allowing leaders to rise to power or even anointing leaders to rise to power, but is on a day-to-day basis giving them direct downloads and marching orders of how to proceed with the power he's given them. That would be a direct theocracy. Then you mentioned the indirect kind, all right, which started with Saul, even though God called him, but then Saul ruled and reigned not independent of God's will. He tried to act independent of God's will, but he was not getting direct downloads from God himself. The same David did through prophets, but then it went hereditary from that basis, and then the kingdom split, the northern and southern kingdoms, right? So there's direct and indirect variations of this thing. Okay, so we're not under the law in terms of how to determine our salvation. But the idea that the moral law does not exist and was canceled is not true. In fact, they debated this at the Council of Jerusalem. A bunch of Jews got together and said, now that we're out here worship or ministering to Gentiles, do we have them get circumcised? What does this look like? They came to the conclusion that the Gentiles, that sort of ceremonial law was for the Jewish people for a period of time that was now fulfilled. and that the moral law is the eternal law of God, like the 10 Commandments, for example, okay? And if you look at what, I think it's James, doesn't he write the letter as the Bishop of Jerusalem? Doesn't he write the letter there summarizing what the conclave had come up with and basically said, hey, abstain from sexual immorality, pagan practices, right? Okay, so to maintain your moral purity, but you're not under the specific religious or ceremonial laws that used to apply to Israel but are now fulfilled. Okay, and so that's why we put the 10 Commandments in our own, Supreme Court buildings and many of our government buildings at the time of our founding. We recognize that that was the ultimate source of law. That's why the state of Louisiana just became the first state to mandate that you had to post the 10 Commandments because it is the source of law. I don't know if you guys saw, Gavin Newsom was saying yesterday they have this huge crime problem in Louisiana, and this is what they have time for. Hey, numbnuts, that's exactly what they needed to do this. Because they have a huge crime problem in Louisiana, they needed to introduce them to the law. They need to do that. They need to know what the law is. Okay. All right. So the answer to your question is we're already under a theocracy. We're always going to be under a theocracy. Something must rule. Something will rule. Something must be worshipped. It's just a question of what kind of theocracy and who is the theo.
That was a very, very good, earnest answer to that question. I would say if you're asked, well, don't you right-wingers want to, you guys just want a theocracy, that's not the response that I would give to them. And I know that's not what you were doing. That was that's not what I'm saying. That was an earnest response and a well-founded response as well. I would not give that answer. It's good to know what an actual theocracy is, direct, indirect theocracy. That's very good. If you are in a position where you're being confronted with, you all just want to turn this into a theocracy, I would ask that person, if you go to 4th Street and 10th Avenue in Huntington, West Virginia, and you've got bald tires, and you accidentally, on acceleration, squeal through the intersection a little bit, what's going to happen to you? Versus if you're just on 163rd Avenue in Warren County, Iowa, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen to you. You're probably going to think, crap, I need to get some new tires. Okay. If you did that in West Virginia, in Huntington, at the intersection that I just told you about, you're going to need a lawyer because there's a rainbow crosswalk at that intersection, and you just violated the nation's blasphemy laws.
Yes.
That's how I'd respond to somebody who would make a charge. You guys just want a theocracy. No, we already have blasphemy laws here. They are on the books, whether or not they're written or what have you, made up or what have you. So that's how I would respond.
See, I think our approaches go together. I wanted to educate Deb on the premise of her question for believers.
Yep.
But then the next step, then, how to respond to the challenge of unbelievers, secure in the knowledge of what I just shared, is how you can then go to the card that you just played there when you're now on offense against skeptics and scoffers. Todd will get your take in a second after we talk about our friends over at Eden Pure. You can say goodbye to nasty home odors and costly filters with the Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier. It eliminates, it doesn't freshen, it eliminates. It's a purifier, not an air freshener, an air purifier. It eliminates the components causing the bad smells in your home with its Oxy technology. That also means you won't have to replace filters ever, not as an out-of-pocket expense or an out-of-time occasion. You'll never have to do it, and instead you're going to watch odors in your home disappear in mere seconds. Nasty smells from dirty laundry, pets, burnt food, cooking odors, mildew smells, cigarette smoke do not stand a chance against the Eden Pure. And you can place one in your bedroom, family room, kitchen, basement. Get the 3-pack for whole home protection today. Get the 3-pack for whole home protection when you go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Steve3. The discount code Steve3 at EdenPureDeals.com.
Can we have a theocracy? What would it look like? We may as well be talking about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. Because no sooner did Louisiana put the 10 Commandments back in the schools, like Steve just got done talking about, David French has already responded, seriously, with a column in the New York Times saying that that's unconstitutional. Who can withstand such forces of light and reason?
And ironically, this would go to a building who has a painting right outside of its main chambers where it'll hear arguments called the Supreme Court. And what's the painting of? The 10 Commandments. But what David French is telling you is, hey, this is anathema to my God. His God is the spirit of the age. Because again, don't ever forget this. Ever. ever. Something will always rule. Something must always be worshiped. I know a lot of you guys, because I hear from you all the time, have really internalized we're not a nation of laws, and we never have been. We're a nation of political will, and we always will be. I get a kick out of it when you guys even go to some of our colleagues in conservative media and quote that to them in their feeds. Thank you for that. I think that's funny. We're honored because it demonstrates that you guys really see how important and poignant that observation is. Well, I think this is in the same class as that one, okay? Something will always rule. Nature abhors a vacuum. There is no such thing as a populist, sustainable movement. You're just going to, out of that will come a Republican form of government or an oligarchy. You see what I'm saying? Just something has to rule. Something has to rule. And something will always, and something must be worshiped. Must be. It could be ourselves. It could be an idol. Could be the one true living God, but something will always rule and something must be worshiped. All right, gentlemen, any final thoughts here on the final minute before we close it out?
Yeah, looking forward to the weekend ahead. Got a bit of a family reunion thing going on in eastern Iowa, so kind of excited about that.
Yeah, I'm not doing any of that. Just staying home.
And on that note, have a great weekend. Until Monday, Romans 8:28.